Let's go back to the case for a moment and talk about the defense ending rather quickly. And you said you were kind of surprised by this. Everyone was surprised.
Uh,
Why do you think that is? On the outside looking in, what my reaction was, oh, I think the prosecution already sunk themselves. Let's not keep adding more to the fire, which could steer us in another way. And less is more is kind of what I was thinking. What was your thoughts being actually there?
it's so hard to know, because it's like you look at it like, and it was the first time I had ever sat on that side of the bar where I'm not in the well of the courtroom trying the case
Yeah.
from beginning to end. Like, obviously, I've streamed a bunch of trials. It's different when you're there. It
Yeah.
just is. You're seeing more. Even though I was at the disadvantage of having to write the whole time, trying to transcribe this trial the
Yeah.
best that I could. Um, but you have this dilemma of the confessions. So you had to deal with them in some way, shape, or form. And like, how do you balance how much of the state's what I consider to be weak case in terms of evidence, pulling if you pull the confessions out of it, and you're like, okay, well, they basically have mere presence at the bridge, and you have a few eyewitnesses that all give different descriptions of a different person, at least in my estimation.
Yeah.
And then you got this unspent casing. So you've got to deal with those independently, but also understanding that the most powerful evidence at the end of the day is going to be those confessions.
Mhm.
And then you're kind of looking at it from the defense perspective. You're like, how much do we put on? Do we put Kathy Allen on? Do we need to give this jury an understanding of where Rick was for the rest of the day? Like what was his demeanor when I got home from work? Frankly, and I'm sure that that was the toughest decision for the defense, whether or not to put her on.
Mhm.
And it could have been Rick Allen, who's very protective of his wife, saying, I don't want her involved with this, to not put her on the stand. I don't know. I mean,
Mhm.
ultimately, that's a strategy decision by the attorneys, not the client. But like, personally, like, I leaned on the side that that was a mistake not putting her on, because I think the jury needed to hear what was going on with Rick when she got home from work. What was he doing? Who does the laundry? Was there any laundry being done? Was there, did he leave that night? Was he acting strange? Like, all those things that you could have asked her, because the way it kind of went down is you never really heard where Rick Allen was that whole day.
Mhm.
And it was kind of left at that,
Y
which strategically, when you're kind of looking at the microcosm of the case and you're shrinking it down to the period of time in which the state believes the girls were killed, which is why I was like, you attack the timeline.
Mhm.
You attack the timeline. They could not prove when the girls died. The only information that they were using was saying that Libby's Apple Health data, her phone data, said that the phone stopped moving in such and such a time.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that that's when the girls died.
No.
Just doesn't. And it's like you get this kind of like stunning evidence brought in at the very last minute by the defense, with this phone being plugged in, that the headphone port was accessed from
Yeah.
5:22 to 10, and then unplugged at 10:23. You've got, their phone data guy going down and googling, in a 15-minute break, and coming up and testifying, oh, I googled that can be from water damage or dirt. And like, why wasn't that looked at?
Yeah.
Like what are you telling me, that at no point during the 7 years of investigation, that no one ever, with this thought that the girls crossed the creek, like that at some point that they were forced to cross the creek, like, don't you want to just see if the phone had water damage, just to support that proposition alone, without even thinking about
Mhm.
this thing that they may have found, or that they did find in the data?
Yeah.
Like, like, how was that never done? Like, in the search for the truth, like, my biggest takeaway from this trial is that this investigation was not good. Like that, and we all knew that going in, but it was substantiated at trial. It's one thing to hear about it and hear everybody speculate about it. It's another thing to hear it come into evidence. The amount of lost interviews, the amount of things that weren't done, the amount of things that they did at trial. Like, they get a jury question. about, oh, did you ever go and see how many Ford Focuses were, in the area? Black Ford Focuses were in the area at the time, and they hadn't done that.
Mhm.
And they do it after they get that jury question in the middle of trial,
Yeah.
and then they only provide the information on a real limited scope. Like, they don't talk about all the cars that look like Ford Focuses. You can't
Yeah.
tell what kind of car that is.
Well,
Just
one of
can't.
the pieces from afar that I was kind of taken aback by was the individual, I believe it was an officer, who testified about the voice on the bridge and the voice on the video and Richard Allen, and just basically stating, "I believe that's him." Okay, how? How have you verified this? What testing have you done on the voice to compare it? Was there any testing? This is just literally his opinion from what I've understood.
Yeah.
That's
No,
it.
exactly,
And
dude.
presented as fact.
Presented as if this guy, like, and I mean, obviously they crossed him. Do you have any training? Have you do you have any education to make that kind of
Yeah.
assessment on the stand in the middle of a trial? And he's like, no, I don't have any of that. And then she allows that opinion to come in. I was like stunned,
Yeah.
man. I was like stunned. I was absolutely, I couldn't believe it.
How many times
I
did
mean,
you just want to stand up
that's
and,
like
and
that's like
yell?
me putting you on the stand, Tony, and saying, "Hey, man," you're like, "Tony, yeah, I listened to it. I listened to it a hundred times, maybe more, and I had headphones on." Oh, okay, and then you listen to the audio from that video, okay, and then Tony, in your expert opinion, because you listened to so many times, is that the same voice?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It
Yes,
must be. Yeah.
unequivocally, it's the same voice. I'm
Yeah.
like, am I in crazy world?
Yeah.
I'm
It
like,
felt like what are we doing here? Like, how is this being presented as fact?
it
Like
was
we have
unbelievable.
things, we have tools to do these tasks.
Right. Why, like, why not get somebody to figure out the height of the bridge guy? Like, either way, like,
There's ways of doing these things.
there's 100% ways to do it, and
Yeah.
they chose not to do it. Like, that came out on testimony. Like, yeah, it was like 10 grand. We decided because of the error, the error rate, that we decided not to do it. I'm like, oh man, I don't know, man. I don't know. It was just a thing. So I don't know.
My
It's all
God.
gonna come out on appeal though.
It
Like, all
will.
of it, we're gonna hear about it all on appeal. The nice thing about the appeal is that they're gonna have to make the transcripts. So, I want the world to read the transcripts.
Yeah.
I did the best I could.
Yeah.
Andrea did the best that she could. Lawyerly we all did the
Yeah.
best that we could to transcribe every word that you can, but you can't do it. It's
No.
impossible, and the world deserves to know what went on in that courtroom, word for word. So, like, this thing's not over.
No.
Like, which is unfortunate for the families, but that's part of the process. It's
I
like,
was so hoping because initially going in, I thought, well, maybe it could go either way. Then the way it was going, I was thinking he's going to get off. Like this is great that they can kind of move on and hopefully actually go after who actually did this. But nope, here we
nope.
are again. Ah,
Yep. I mean, dude, it's it's one of those things where he may never get a new trial.
yeah,
You never know. It's like, you can't sit here confident about anything. You'll hear the talking heads on it, and you'll hear both sides of it. There's no way those confessions are too in stone, but those confessions, man, you can't trust them. Like like
no,
like why why couldn't they have just done it honestly? Like, why did they have to do the things that they did in order to like, I would have trusted those confessions a hell of a lot more if he was making them in Cass County Jail.
1000%. It was not the same Richard Allen in that initial police interview that was making those confessions. Very
A
different
shell.
person.
He was
Yeah.
a shell of his former self. It was shocking, man.
Well, we will continue to watch it, and maybe 10 years from now, you got to go drive there again and, sit in a
I'm gonna go up
courtroom
for
for a month.
sentencing, even though that's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
She's gonna get the maximum possible. So, but
Gosh.
you know, I
Well,
follow the case, man.
great
Follow the
reporting,
case.
Bob Motta. Thank you for being there and bringing us the
Of
latest
course.
every single
I've
day.
been missing you, buddy. So I'm glad I'm back.
Back to
Get
normal.
back to our regularly scheduled programs.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.